Okay, so we're going to move on to the second question, which is on unemployment. And the question basically is, we've had this economic crisis that began in 2007, and since then millions of workers have been thrown out of work, and we have the highest unemployment in decades, and millions more are living in fear of being thrown out of work and being unemployed. So how would Tea Party activists and how would socialists propose to deal with the unemployment crisis? What concrete solutions do you advocate? And we're going to start with 4 minutes from Ramy.
Okay, so it used to be that people worked on farms and they could grow their own food, but now in our modern industrial society, urbanized societies, most people live in cities, and if you can't get a job, if you can't get hired by a business and get work, then you are really out of luck. You have no way of making a living unless you can afford the money to start a business. But a lot of people don't have the money to do that. Now, if you can't get a job, it's really a very difficult existence. Many people slip into depression, alcoholism, drug abuse, domestic violence. It's miserable having to look for jobs. I know one story is I have a friend who applied for just a very basic job to wash bed sheets and gowns in a hospital, and something like 1,500 people applied for this one job in the course of 2 weeks. It's a very vicious market right now. The official unemployment rate is 9.8%, but if you count people who have part-time jobs, who would prefer to have full-time jobs, or people that are called discouraged workers, people who just give up looking for work, the actual unemployment rate is actually around 17%, or sometimes people say, some economists say 20%. So this is a huge problem. In the richest country in the world, there's millions of people that want work, that are able bodies, that are willing to work, and they can't find jobs because businesses are simply not hiring. And that's one of the great contradictions of capitalism. Businesses will only hire workers if they feel that there's people that are willing to buy their products. Then they'll hire the workers to do the work, and then they can sell their products and make a profit. But if the business owner can't turn a profit, then too bad for all those workers. They just can't get jobs. And that is what we're facing right now. And the banks and corporations, they have billions and billions of dollars, yet they won't hire people. So this is one of the great contradictions of the capitalist system, is it has this periodic business cycle. Without any overall planning in the economy, with a free market economy where every business is free to do whatever it wants, there's no help there's no way for those individuals that we do want to empower to get out and find meaningful work and be productive. They're languishing at home, not being able to work, not being able to contribute, not to be able to develop their skills. And capitalism has this problem where because all the businesses are privately owned and they're all competing against one another, they all are in this race to produce as much product as possible, and they're always trying to lower labor costs as much as possible. So there's this periodic crisis that develops that Marx called the crisis of overproduction, where businesses overproduce all these things, and all the workers that they're hiring are being underpaid. And so there's always this constant, every so often there's a business cycle where there's too much stuff being produced and not enough people able to buy all this stuff. And so it's inevitable under capitalism that you're going to have unemployment. At the best of times, it's as low as 6%. At the worst of times, it gets really high, depending on what some countries, it's like 50%, 70%, in certain areas, 70%. Here in this country, we're at 10 or 17%, depending on how you count it. So we think this is crazy. We think if there's people that are willing to work, there's plenty of work that needs to be done. We need to clean up oil spills. We need to fix up our schools. We need to repair our hospitals. We need to build mass transit. We need to invest and put people to work building solar panels and wind farms. We think that there's no reason all these companies need to be laying people off. We advocate no more cuts in workers, no more layoffs, no more cuts in public services. All these working people that are being laid off, it was not any of their fault of their own. They went to work, they played by the rules, and yet they're being laid off. We think that's unacceptable. That there should be a halt to all of these constant layoffs. And we think the banks who've been bailed out and who have all these billions of dollars, they should be the ones that cough up the money to put these people to work, not laying off all these workers.
Okay. So we're going to move on. 4 minutes from Keli.
Okay. I just wanted to touch on a couple things of what you said about businesses. Somehow businesses not hiring people, especially small businesses, they can only hire people if they can afford to. I mean, my friend, she owns a small shop in Pike Place Market, and she would love to be able to hire more people, but she runs on such a thin margin that if she were to hire one more person, as much as she would love to, she will go out of business, and then all 5 of the people that work there will lose their jobs. So, I mean, businesses hire when they can afford to. And I would also point to the massive perpetual unemployment in socialized nations or social democracies such as those in Europe. Their unemployment rate is consistently double digits, whereas I mean, it never goes below double digits. And as you said, we can get down to 4%. It's a utopian ideal that you will never have unemployment. In any system, you're going to have unemployment. And in capitalism, when things are going good, you can get it down to 4%, which you will never get it down to 4% in a place like Europe. Part of the reason why there has been such job loss right now is that it costs way too much to hire people. So another thing that we can do for employers so that they can hire people, especially all the small businesses that employ people, is to cut the cost of how much it costs to hire somebody. You've got so many payroll taxes and various other employment taxes that employers have to pay that they can't afford to hire more people. The availability of credit obviously is a problem for people. Again, my friend wants to expand her business, but credit is very hard to find right now. And it's ironic that the credit industry and the banking industry and the financial industry, again, is probably the most heavily regulated industry in this nation. So again, I would look at government for dropping the ball on these issues. It is the most regulated, and yet somehow they missed the boat on this one. We want to see employers keep more of their money so that they can hire more people. One other way you can do this is cutting capital gains taxes. When you raise capital gains taxes, you incentivize saving. So there's less capital, less credit in the market to go around so that people like my friend can't find the capital or the credit to expand her business. And if she could hire up to 10 more people. So that'd be 10 people in the Seattle area that could get jobs if there were enough capital and enough credit in the system. But when you have a high capital gains tax, everybody starts to save because why would if they spend it, they're taxed on it. So they hoard it. Freedom, capitalistic freedom, has produced economic growth and jobs, and big government produces regulation, high taxes, and it makes the exact opposite happen. The biggest employment gains that have happened over this recession have been in the government. The government has added thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. In the state of Washington, for every one government job lost, we have lost over 300 private sector jobs. That is unbelievable, and it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable that people in the private sector are losing their jobs like this, and that in the state employees, they lose one. And that to me is an unacceptable statistic. I would just argue that we have the best system in the world. We've got people trying to get in every single day, leaving socialist nations because we do have a middle class here, and it's the middle class that does. I'm sorry, I don't know what America you live in, but I know we have a middle class. And to assert that we don't have a middle class is unproductive because we do. And though they're hurting right now, the way to make it better, again, is to allow the middle class to keep more of their money and to allow the people who invest in business to keep more of their own money. Thank you.